She came to Florida under a cloud of heartbreak and longing not for sunshine, but for something darker she believed she deserved. Her name was Sonia Exelby, 32, from Portsmouth, England. And she had spent years wrestling with mental pain no one else could fully see. She was suicidal, British authorities later revealed, haunted by a yearning that twisted into something almost impossible to understand, a wish to be hurt, even killed. In the late summer of 2025, she booked a plane ticket, her destination, Gainesville Regional Airport, but she wasn't simply traveling for a vacation, she was traveling for an end she thought she wanted. More than once, in private writings on her computer, Sonia described a desperate plan. She planned to cross the ocean, to meet people who would obey her darkest desires, people who would hurt her, possibly kill her. She believed she could only rest if she was broken. Sonia's search began online. There, in the dim corners of niche fetish websites, she found someone who seemed to understand. A man named Dwayne Hall, 53, living in Ocala, Florida, was a self-described mentor to the broken, a man who admitted violent tendencies and claimed he could help her, according to investigators. Their relationship had started at least 2 years earlier. These were private messages, loaded with hints of bondage, death, submission, conversations that crossed the line between fantasy and something far more dangerous. When she landed in Florida on October 10th, she wasn't alone. Hall picked her up. He drove her to a quiet Airbnb in Reddick. The rental was clean, anonymous, tucked into woods, the kind of place where secrets could be spoken and carried out. Inside, away from prying eyes, he told her she had arrived safely, but safety, in her mind, wasn't what she sought. Over the next days, she moved between violent consent and raw fear. Hall admitted to having sex with her multiple times, and later, to recording her footage that he would try to delete. But investigators recovered what remained, bruises on her skin, in the low-resolution frames of a video where he asked her how she wanted to die. She agreed, quietly, but her voice cracked. Her nods were hesitant, her eyes downcast. "Because I'm an awful person," she said in that recovered footage. When he asked why she was there, "I've crushed everyone who ever loves me." He asked her again. She paused. And she responded, "Consent, but complicated." To the outside world she had many faces: a young woman battling depression in England, a fantasist exploring dangerous boundaries, and now, someone locked into a fate she had actively courted. But in her final hours, something in her reeled. On October 11th, she reached out to a friend via Discord. Her message was chilling. "He made it clear there was no way out unless I shoot him," she typed. "I was questioning it last night. I thought he'd do it quick and not give my mind time to stew." She wrote that she thought she'd made a mistake. That fear, once fantasy, had become real. The next days passed. But as the calendar flipped, the silence from her Airbnb grew heavier. When she missed her scheduled return flight to the UK on October 13th, alarm bells rang. British authorities alerted their counterparts in Florida through Interpol. A missing person report turned into something far darker. By October 17th, the horror was confirmed. Sonia's body was found in a shallow grave, hidden in the woods of Marion County, Florida. The grim discovery was more than tragic, it was murder. Autopsy results revealed 4 stab wounds. The very tool used to bury her matched one bought by Hall himself. Footprints, DNA, and surveillance connected him to the crime. Hall, arrested only days later, had tried to move quickly. Investigators tied him to her through bank records, her cards, her transfers, a two-way communication device, a bizarre package mailed to a friend in Ohio, and that brutal confession: he had discussed violence, suicide, and eroticized death with her. In police interviews, he admitted to their conversations, claiming she had asked for it. He said that if she couldn't escape, he believed she was happy because she got what she wanted, but in her final message, she'd begged for a way out she didn't feel she could take. At his first court appearance, Hall was charged not only with fraud, but with first-degree murder and kidnapping. The judge denied bond. In court documents, his bail was reduced to nothing. The evidence, according to the prosecution, was overwhelming. They pointed to the video, the Discord message, and the purchase of equipment. They pointed to a life ended far from home, and a plan that someone helped bring into being, to her family in Portsmouth. The news was a nightmare made real. In the United Kingdom, detectives from the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary worked alongside Florida officials, sharing pieces of the puzzle that had begun with a travel booking and ended in a shallow grave. For Sonia, the trip was always her own choice, but her death raises haunting questions. How much of her consent was genuine? How much was coercion dressed as understanding? And how did someone convince a deeply vulnerable woman that her most painful desires could and should be fulfilled through violence? Now, her story is a sobering reflection on the digital age. On how loneliness and mental illness can lead people to places they never should have gone. On how predators can hide in the guise of mentors. On how fantasy can become fatal. But it is also a reminder, somewhere out there are people just like Sonia, people who feel broken and seen, desperate for a release they don't know how to name. And there are people like Hall who say they want to help, but whose version of help is built on control, abuse, and violence. As the world watches this case unfold, one thing is certain: Sonia Exelby's voice did reach far in her final messages, in her journey across continents, in the digital trail she left behind. What remains now is for justice to answer her, and perhaps for the rest of us to listen.